All right, so we're diving into the world of contract engineers today.
Yeah, fascinating field, really, where technical know-how meets that contract savvy.
Exactly. And we're here to equip you, our listener, with the tools to ace that contract engineer interview.
Absolutely. We're going to be drawing on some really insightful resources today from RoleCatcher, their career and interview guides, and even touch upon how their AI platform can give you a real advantage.
Okay, so let's set the stage first. For our listener, can you break down what a contract engineer actually does?
Well, think about like a massive construction project or, cutting edge software development.
Uh-huh.
Even those complex renewable energy installations we see popping up everywhere.
Right, right.
Contract engineers, they're the ones ensuring those projects are running smoothly,
Oh,
on time and within budget. They're not just number crunchers, they're translating all that technical jargon into, contract language so everyone's on the same page.
so they're like a bridge between the engineers designing the what and the legal teams making sure the how is all above board.
Exactly. And the best ones, they're anticipating those potential risks, negotiating solutions where everybody wins.
And this is a career with a future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher's Career Guide actually highlights that it's a field with serious staying power.
Oh, that's great to hear.
As industries keep evolving, the demand for professionals who can, navigate the technical and legal complexities, that's only going to increase.
That's good news for anyone considering this path. But first, they have to nail that interview, right?
Right.
So what are interviewers really looking for when they're grilling potential contract engineers? What are they trying to see?
Well, they want more than just someone who can, recite contract law from a textbook.
Right.
They want critical thinkers, problem solvers on the fly, clear communicators, someone who can explain a change order to a project manager who doesn't speak legalese.
Yeah, makes sense.
They need to see you can protect the company's interests while speaking their language. That's what makes a contract engineer truly valuable.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. RoleCatcher's interview guide gives us 10 common questions that often come up in these interviews. We're going to take each one, figure out what the interviewer is really getting at, and then give you some strategies to knock your answer out of the park.
Sounds good.
So, question number 1. Can you explain your experience with contract management? Now, this seems pretty straightforward, but what are they really asking here?
I think they're digging for evidence that you've actually done the work, not just studied it.
Okay, yeah.
Have you drafted contracts, negotiated terms, managed all those amendments and change orders? They want to see the extent of your involvement.
So it's not enough to just list your past job responsibilities. They want to see how you applied those skills.
Yeah, and this is where RoleCatcher's AI can be incredibly helpful.
Oh, tell me more about that. I've heard whispers about this AI. What's the deal?
Well, it digs into the wording of the job description and then helps you highlight the skills they're prioritizing in your answers.
Oh, clever.
So if the job description really emphasizes negotiation skills, RoleCatcher is going to nudge you to focus on those times when you negotiated favorable terms for your previous companies, things like that.
So it's like having a personal interview coach who's zeroed in on exactly what this hiring manager is looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic.
It helps you showcase the most relevant parts of your experience.
Makes sense. Okay, back to our first question. How can our listener really craft a response that goes beyond just listing their previous job responsibilities?
Instead of just saying, I managed contracts, tell story, right?
Okay.
Like think of a project where you had to handle a tricky contract negotiation, describe the challenges, the strategies you used, how your actions benefited the project or, the company itself.
Give them the how, not just the what.
Exactly. And anytime you can, quantify your achievements. Did you negotiate a discount that saved the company thousands? Right.
Or like resolve a dispute that could have delayed the whole project.
Those details make it real.
Yeah, those kinds of details bring your experience to life.
They make it memorable too.
Right.
Okay, so what about potential follow-up questions? They might dig deeper, right?
Yep.
They'd ask about specific types of contracts you've worked with or challenges you've encountered. What then?
Be ready to discuss different contract formats.
Okay.
Maybe FIDI contracts if you're in construction, or software licensing agreements if you're in tech.
Okay.
And when talking about those challenges, frame them as learning experiences,
Yeah.
Talk about how you overcame obstacles, what you learned, and how those insights made you a better contract engineer.
I love that. So it's not about pretending you're perfect. It's about showing that you learn and grow from your experiences.
Right.
All right, moving on to question 2. How do you ensure that contracts are compliant with legal regulations? This feels like a high-stakes one.
It is, especially now, with regulations changing all the time.
What? Interviewers are looking for more than just a basic grasp of the law. They want to see that you're proactive, detail-oriented, committed to ethical practices, you know.
So how do we avoid giving a generic, I always follow the rules type of answer?
Well, first, demonstrate you know your stuff.
Mm.
Mention regulations that are specifically relevant to the industry or the company you're interviewing with.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got certifications like the CCM or PMP, definitely highlight those.
Okay.
Those credentials show your dedication to professional development and really understanding those best practices.
So those certifications carry weight. But what about keeping up with changes in the legal landscape? It seems like things are constantly in flux.
You're right, it's a moving target. That's why it's key to show you're proactive. Mention industry conferences you attend, journals you subscribe to, or even, online communities where you connect with other contract professionals.
So it's about showing that you're always learning, always staying ahead of the curve.
Yeah, it's about adapting to the ever-changing legal environment.
Now, I know RoleCatcher's AI comes into play here as well, right?
It does. It can analyze your answer and suggest ways to make it stronger, like highlighting specific legal challenges the company might be facing or recent regulatory changes in their industry.
So it's like having a legal expert in your corner helping you anticipate the interviewer's next move.
Exactly.
All right, now, what about those curveball hypothetical questions? Like, imagine you discover a potential conflict of interest within a contract. What do you do? How do you prepare for something like that?
Those questions, they're testing your judgment, your problem-solving skills. There's not always a single right answer.
Right.
The key is to show a logical thought process.
Okay.
Explain the steps you'd take, who you'd consult with, how you'd weigh those potential risks and benefits of different choices,
So it's about demonstrating that you can think clearly under pressure, make a decision with the information you have.
Exactly. That's what the interviewer is looking for.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to question 3. Can you walk us through your negotiation process with vendors or suppliers? This one feels more strategic.
Oh, it is. Successful contract engineers are like master negotiators.
Yeah.
Securing good terms while keeping those relationships with vendors strong. Remember, it's about win-win, not, bullying someone into submission.
Right. So when answering this question, should our listener focus on specific tactics or more of a general approach?
I'd say share a concrete example. A time you negotiated a contract with a vendor or a supplier.
Okay.
What were your goals going in?
Uh-huh.
What challenges did you hit? How did you overcome them?
Right.
And how did the agreement you reached benefit both sides?
So it's a story, like we talked about earlier, but with a focus on the how of the negotiation.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what if you had to walk away from a negotiation? Like the terms just weren't acceptable. Is it okay to talk about that?
Absolutely. That shows you're willing to make tough decisions, that you understand the importance of protecting your company.
Yeah.
Just make sure to frame it positively, Explain what you learned from it and how it shaped your approach in future negotiations.
That's a good point. So failure isn't a bad thing as long as you learn from it.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about follow-up questions on this one?
Well, they might ask about specific negotiation strategies.
Right.
Like competitive bidding, collaborative problem solving,
Oh.
Or they might even throw a hypothetical scenario at you, like a vendor demanding unreasonable concessions.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, so be ready to think on your feet and apply your negotiation skills to that real-world challenge.
And I'm sure RoleCatcher's AI can help analyze the response here too.
Oh, for sure. It can compare your answer to successful responses from other contract engineers, give you feedback, refine your approach.
So it's like having a team of negotiation experts backing you up.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, on to question 4. Can you explain your experience with contract administration? Now, this sounds like it gets into the nitty-gritty of managing those contracts day to day.
It does. It's all about making sure those contracts run smoothly, that everyone's holding up their end of the bargain.
Right.
It's a big part of the role, and interviewers want to see that you really grasp the process.
So what are some key areas our listeners should focus on when tackling this question?
Think about the entire life cycle of a contract.
Okay.
How you track milestones and deadlines, manage changes and amendments, what systems you use to keep those records accurate.
So it's not just about filing paperwork. You're actively managing the contract.
Exactly, and making sure it's working as intended.
Now, what if things go sideways, like a contractor misses a deadline or the work isn't up to par? How do you handle that?
That's where you really get to show off your problem-solving and communication skills.
Okay.
Explain how you identify and address breaches,
Uh,
right? Do you have a system for escalating things? Do you work with legal counsel?
right. Yeah.
Give specific examples of how you've resolved contract disputes in the past. It shows you can find solutions that are fair and effective.
It shows you can handle the heat. And I imagine RoleCatcher's AI can be particularly helpful with this question too, especially when it comes to showing your stuff about the specific industry.
Absolutely. It can suggest ways to tailor your answer to what the company needs.
Oh, yeah.
Like if it's a construction company, RoleCatcher might prompt you to talk about your experience with change orders or handling delays.
Right.
If it's a tech company, it might be more about software licenses and intellectual property rights.
So it helps you speak their language.
Exactly.
That's awesome. All right, let's move on to question 5. How do you ensure that contracts are aligned with business objectives? This one feels like it goes beyond just the legal stuff.
It definitely does. This
Yeah.
is about strategic thinking. The
Really?
interviewers, they want to see that you get the bigger picture.
Okay.
That you see how the contract language connects to the business goals.
It's not just about dotting the I's and crossing the T's. It's about understanding the why behind it all.
Exactly. A truly effective contract engineer, they're not just focused on checking boxes, they're thinking about how that contract can make the business succeed.
So how do we go beyond saying, I make sure the contract is legally sound? How do we show that more strategic mindset?
Share a story about a time when you looked at a contract and saw it wasn't really helping the company achieve its goals.
Okay.
Did you renegotiate clauses or did you find a different solution?
Right.
Did you, challenge the status quo to get a contract that better served the company's bigger objectives?
So it's about showing initiative, showing that you understand the impact those contracts have on the business.
Exactly.
Now, what if they throw a curveball and say, imagine a contract is already in place and you realize it's actually hindering the company's ability to achieve its goals?
Yeah.
What do you do?
That's them testing your problem-solving skills, seeing how you handle those messy situations.
Yeah.
Explain your approach. Would you renegotiate? Would you look for other solutions to, minimize the negative impact? The key is to show you're proactive and ready to find creative solutions that balance those legal obligations with what the business actually needs.
Right. So you're thinking on your feet, you're finding a way to make it work.
Exactly.
And RoleCatcher's AI could probably help with this one too, right? Especially understanding those specific business objectives of the company.
Well, for sure. It can analyze all sorts of information, the company's website, news articles, stuff like that, to figure out what their strategic priorities are.
That's really smart.
And then you can tailor your answer to their specific needs and show you really get their business.
That level of preparation could really set you apart.
Yeah.
All right, let's tackle question 6. Can you discuss your experience with contract risk management? That feels pretty crucial for a contract engineer.
Yeah. There's always some level of risk with contracts.
Of course.
And the contract engineer's job is to spot those risks and come up with ways to minimize them. Interviewers want to see that you're thinking ahead and taking those potential problems seriously.
So how do you demonstrate that risk management expertise in a way that really grabs the interviewer's attention?
Think back to a project where you successfully spotted a big risk and dealt with it, right?
Good.
Walk them through it. What risks did you see?
Yeah.
What tools or methods did you use to figure out how likely they were to happen and how bad they'd be?
Right.
And most importantly, what did you actually do to reduce those risks?
So show them the how, the process, not just that you're aware of the concept of risk.
Exactly.
Okay, what about follow-up questions? What if they ask about a time when a risk you identified actually happened?
That's a chance to show you can solve problems and adapt.
Okay.
Explain how you handled it. Did you have backup plans? Did you have to change parts of the contract?
Right.
Did you work with others to find a solution? The key is showing you can think on your feet and make smart decisions under pressure.
So it's not about always being right. It's about knowing how to course correct when things don't go as planned.
Yeah.
And RoleCatcher's AI could probably provide some useful insights here too, right? Understanding industry-specific risks and best practices.
Oh, absolutely. If you're talking to a construction company, RoleCatcher might suggest you talk about managing weather-related risks or those supply chain disruptions we hear so much about.
Uh-huh.
And for a tech company, it might be cybersecurity risks or data privacy regulations.
So it's tailoring your expertise to the specific concerns of the company.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on to question 7. Can you explain your experience with contract compliance auditing? This sounds pretty meticulous.
It is. It's about making sure everyone involved is sticking to the terms of the contract,
Right.
that all the laws and regulations are being followed. It's a key part of risk management and a big responsibility for any contract engineer.
So how do we highlight our auditing skills in a way that really wows the interviewer?
Talk about your process. How do you plan and carry out those audits?
Okay.
What documents do you look at? What are the red flags, And how do you write up your findings and share them with the right people?
So you're showing them you have a system, a method to your auditing madness.
Right.
Now, what if you find a major compliance issue during an audit? That could be a tricky conversation. How do you approach that?
It's about staying professional and being transparent.
Okay.
Explain how you'd handle it, always focused on finding a solution.
Uh-huh.
Would you recommend corrective actions? Would you bring it to higher management?
Okay.
Would you work with legal counsel?
Makes sense.
The key is to show that you take compliance seriously and you've got the experience to handle these delicate situations.
So you're not just pointing fingers, you're finding solutions.
Exactly.
And again, I imagine RoleCatcher's AI can provide those industry-specific insights about compliance requirements.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
It can analyze all sorts of factors, industry, location, things like that, to pinpoint those potential compliance risks.
Okay.
And then it can highlight the areas where your experience would be really valuable to them.
So it's helping you showcase the most relevant parts of your background.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to question 8. Can you discuss your experience with contract dispute resolution? This feels like it requires some serious diplomacy skills.
It does. Contract disputes, unfortunately, they happen.
Right.
And the interviewers want to see that you can handle them smoothly and fairly,
Okay.
The goal is to resolve those disputes while keeping those relationships with everyone intact.
So how do we show off those dispute resolution skills and give the interviewer confidence?
Tell them about a specific dispute you successfully resolved in the past.
All right.
Walk them through the whole thing.
Okay.
What was the issue? What was at stake? What strategies did you use to get everyone communicating and negotiating? And how did you actually reach a resolution?
So you're telling the story again, painting that picture of your success.
Right.
Now, what about those really contentious disputes? The ones with, the tough personalities involved. How do you navigate those waters?
It's all about staying calm, professional, focused on solutions, highlight your ability to really listen, empathize with different perspectives, and find that common ground. If you've got experience with things like mediation or arbitration, definitely mention those.
So showcase those advanced skills.
Yeah.
And of course, RoleCatcher's AI could help here too, understanding common contract disputes in the company's industry and best practices for resolving them.
Yeah, RoleCatcher can analyze industry trends and legal precedents to see what those common sticking points are,
Okay.
and then suggest strategies to resolve those disputes effectively.
That kind of insight is invaluable. All right, question 9. Can you walk us through your experience with contract termination? This one sounds a bit heavy.
It can be, yeah.
Right.
Contracts don't always last forever. Of course not.
Sometimes you need to end them, whether it's, because of a breach or a change in the business or something unexpected happens.
Right.
Interviewers want to know you understand how to do that legally and avoid those potential pitfalls.
So how do we approach this question and show our knowledge and professionalism without sounding like we're itching to shut things down?
Focus on your understanding of those termination clauses and the situations where ending a contract is the right move.
Okay.
Have you actually had to do it before?
Uh-huh.
Walk them through it, show you paid attention to the details and followed all the proper procedures.
Right.
Explain how you made sure everyone was treated fairly and that the company's interests were protected.
So it's about showing you can handle a delicate situation with professionalism and fairness.
Exactly.
What about when a termination is particularly complex or emotionally charged? How do you approach those with sensitivity?
It comes down to clear communication and empathy.
Okay.
Explain how you talk to the other party, clearly and respectfully.
Uh-huh.
Would you offer other solutions? Would you bring in legal counsel?
Right.
The point is to show that you can handle a tough situation gracefully while still protecting the company's interests.
It's a balancing act, for sure. And I bet RoleCatcher's AI could be particularly helpful here, understanding those legal requirements and best practices for contract termination in the company's specific area.
Oh, absolutely. It can look at laws and cases to figure out exactly what procedures apply to that company's location and industry.
Okay.
So you can tailor your answer to their specific situation and show you really understand those legal details.
That's really helpful. Okay, let's move on to the final question in this set. How do you maintain positive relationships with contract stakeholders? This feels like it goes beyond just being a good communicator.
It does. Building those strong relationships is key to being a successful contract engineer.
Right.
The interviewers want to see that you're not just focused on the paperwork, but on building trust and rapport with everyone involved. So how do we demonstrate those relationship building skills in a way that really resonates with the interviewer?
Share specific examples of how you've done it before.
Okay.
Maybe you went the extra mile to fix a client's problem, or you stayed in close communication with a vendor,
Right.
Highlight those times when you really listened, understood different viewpoints, and came up with solutions that worked for everyone.
So it's about showing that you're a team player, that you care about more than just getting the contract signed.
Exactly.
Now, what about when you're dealing with a stakeholder who is just really difficult or demanding? How do you maintain that positive relationship while also holding them accountable?
You set clear boundaries, but you keep it respectful and collaborative.
Okay.
Explain how you'd handle a tough stakeholder. Would you have regular check-ins? Would you document everything carefully? Would you loop in higher management if needed?
So it's about showing that you can manage those tricky interpersonal dynamics while still staying professional and focused on finding solutions.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing RoleCatcher's AI can provide some insights here too. Understanding the different stakeholders involved in a company's projects and what they need and expect.
Oh, absolutely. It can analyze trends in company profiles to see who those typical stakeholders are for that company.
That's really useful.
So you can tailor your answer and show a real understanding of how those relationships work in their specific context.
All right, we've tackled all 10 interview questions, but we can't forget about RoleCatcher's Career Guide and the insights it provides.
Oh, right. Good point.
It offers a fascinating look at the different stages of a contract engineer's career, from junior roles all the way up to senior management.
It does.
What really stands out to me is that clear progression of skills and responsibilities as you move up the ladder.
Yeah, it's really interesting. As you gain experience, you're taking on bigger projects, handling larger budgets, leading teams.
Right.
That leadership side becomes more and more important, so you'll need strong communication and delegation skills.
And the career guide also highlights the importance of continuing to learn and develop professionally in this field.
Absolutely, that's crucial.
Right.
The legal landscape is always changing, and there are always new technologies popping up. Contract engineers, they've got to stay ahead of the game, by getting certifications, attending conferences, all those professional development activities.
And it's great that RoleCatcher offers resources to support all that, not just for interview prep, but throughout your entire career.
Yeah, they've got tons of information on certifications, industry trends, career advancement strategies, all sorts of things.
It's like having a personalized career coach right in your pocket.
Exactly.
That's a fantastic resource for anyone who's serious about succeeding in this field.
Yeah.
Now let's zoom in on some of the key certifications that can really boost your credibility and earning potential as a contract engineer.
One of the big ones is the CCM.
The CCM.
Yeah, the Certified Commercial Contracts Manager. It's offered by the NCMA, the National Contract Management Association.
That's the one I've heard a lot about. It's really well respected in the industry, right?
Yeah, it shows a deep understanding of contract management principles and best practices.
Okay.
It covers everything: contract formation, negotiation, administration, risk management, dispute resolution.
Wow.
It's a valuable credential for anyone who's serious about a career in contract management, for sure.
All right. Another one that often comes up is the PMP.
The Project Management Professional.
That's right. Offered by the Project Management Institute.
That one's recognized globally. It shows your project management methodologies and best practices.
Okay.
It's not specific to contract management, but it's super relevant because, contract engineers are often deeply involved in project planning and execution.
So it shows you can manage the whole process.
Yeah.
Not just the contract itself.
Exactly.
And then there's the PE license, the professional engineer license.
Right. That one's required for engineers providing services directly to the public.
It's a market distinction, isn't it?
It is. It shows you have a high level of technical competence and ethical standards.
Okay,
Now, not every contract engineer needs it, but it can be really valuable for those in certain industries like construction or consulting.
got it. And these certifications, they don't just show off your expertise, they can also open doors to new opportunities and higher salaries, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Employers look for these credentials when they're hiring for those higher level positions, and they can give you a real advantage in the job market.
that's great advice. So it's worth investing in your professional development.
For sure.
All right, we've covered a lot today, from those interview tips to career insights to the importance of certifications.
We have. It's been quite a deep dive into the world of contract engineers.
I think our listeners are now well equipped to not only ace that interview, but also build a really successful and rewarding career in this field,
Yeah, I agree. And remember, RoleCatcher's there to help you every step of the way.
like a personalized roadmap for your contract engineering career.
Exactly. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about another key part of this role, financial acumen.
Okay, now this is interesting to me. How important is it for contract engineers to really grasp those financial principles?
Oh, it's essential. They're often involved in setting project budgets, tracking costs, negotiating payment terms.
Right.
They need to understand financial statements, analyze risk, make smart decisions with the money.
So it's not just about the legalese, it's about the dollars and cents.
Exactly. A skilled contract engineer, they can save a company a lot of money by getting good terms, finding those cost-saving opportunities, and avoiding financial risks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm.
Okay, so back to those interview questions. Let's say the interviewer asks, how do you approach developing a project budget?
Mm.
How should our listener respond to really showcase that financial savvy?
I'd say focus on the process, that methodical approach to budgeting.
Okay.
Talk about how you gather cost estimates from vendors and subcontractors, how you factor in those contingencies, because things happen, right?
Yeah.
And using software tools to track and manage it all.
So it's about showing that you're organized and you're thinking ahead.
Exactly.
What about follow-up questions?
Yeah.
Like, what if they dig deeper and ask about a specific time you had to manage a really tight budget or negotiate with a vendor who was, pushing for higher prices?
That's your chance to highlight those negotiation skills and how you balance financial constraints with the project needs.
Okay.
Describe a situation where you had to make tough decisions, maybe finding different materials or renegotiating payment terms.
You're right.
All to stay on budget without compromising quality or those deadlines.
So you're showing that you can be creative and find solutions.
All right.
And RoleCatcher's AI could be helpful here too, right? Understanding typical project costs and all that.
Absolutely. It can look at industry data and compare costs to see what those typical pricing models are
Right.
and what negotiation strategies are likely to work. So it helps you tailor your answers and show a realistic understanding of, how the money works in that specific industry.
That's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch gears again. Now, ethics and professional conduct, how important is that for contract engineers?
Oh, incredibly important. They're often dealing with ethical dilemmas.
Yeah.
Interviewers want to see a strong moral compass, a commitment to doing the right thing.
Makes sense. So let's say the interviewer throws out a question like, describe a time when you faced an ethical dilemma at work. How should our listener tackle that kind of question?
I think they need to be ready to share a specific example that shows their decision-making process.
Yeah.
Like a situation where they had to choose between loyalty to the company and doing what's ethically right.
Right.
Maybe they discovered a colleague doing something shady, or they were pressured to cut corners to meet a deadline.
Yeah, those are tough situations.
They are. And the interviewer is looking for someone who's not only ethical, but also willing to speak up.
To do the right thing, even when it's hard.
Exactly.
And I bet RoleCatcher's AI could provide some insights here as well.
Yeah.
Especially understanding a company's code of conduct and their specific ethical expectations.
Oh, definitely. It can look at their website, mission statements, that kind of thing,
Okay.
to get a feel for their values and principles.
So it's about aligning yourself with their culture.
Exactly. And showing them that you're a good fit ethically.
That you're someone they can trust.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about another critical skill for contract engineers. Communication.
Oh, that's huge.
Huh.
Contract engineers need to be fantastic communicators, both written and verbal.
Yeah, they're dealing with so many different people.
Exactly. They have to explain complex stuff, technical and legal concepts to all kinds of audiences, engineers, project managers, lawyers, executives.
So it's not just about knowing the lingo, it's about making sure everyone understands.
Exactly. And communication is key for building trust, avoiding those misunderstandings, and resolving conflicts.
Now, what if the interviewer says something like, describe a time when you had to communicate a complex contract issue to someone who wasn't technical? How should our listener approach that one?
They need to give an example that shows they can break things down into plain language, something
Right.
anyone can understand. Like maybe they had to explain a technical spec to a client or a legal clause to a project manager.
Right.
Or maybe they had to explain a risk assessment to a senior executive who's not familiar with all the details.
So it's about tailoring your message to the audience.
Exactly.
And what about those follow-up questions? Like if the interviewer asks about a time a miscommunication caused a problem or led to a conflict.
That's a chance to show off those conflict resolution skills and that you learn from your mistakes.
Okay.
Describe a time when, things went wrong because of unclear communication and what steps you took to fix it,
Right.
how you cleared up the confusion, resolved the conflict, and made sure it didn't happen again.
So it's about showing that you can take ownership and find solutions.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm sure RoleCatcher's AI can be helpful here too, understanding the company's communication style and preferences.
Oh, absolutely. It can analyze their website, their marketing stuff, internal comms, to get a feel for their preferred channels, the tone they use, how formal they are.
Okay.
So you can adjust your communication style to match their culture and expectations.
So you're not coming across as too casual or too formal.
Right. You want to fit in.
Okay, let's dig into another essential skill for contract engineers, problem solving.
Oh, yeah. Contract engineers, they face all sorts of challenges.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Technical snags, legal disputes, personality clashes.
Right.
They need to think critically, break down those situations, find creative solutions.
It's about being resourceful, not just following a set of rules.
Exactly. Good problem solving means figuring out the root cause of the problem, considering everyone's perspective, and weighing the pros and cons of different solutions.
So if the interviewer asks, describe a time when you had to solve a complex problem on a project, how should our listener respond?
They need to pick an example that really showcases their analytical skills and, their ability to think outside the box.
Okay.
Maybe they found a way to work around a technical limitation, negotiated a compromise with a difficult stakeholder, or came up with a plan B when something unexpected happened.
So it's about showing that you can handle those curveballs.
Exactly.
And what about follow-up questions? Like, what if the interviewer asks about a time when your initial solution didn't work, or you had to make a tough call with limited information?
That's when you show your resilience, your ability to adapt and roll with the punches.
Okay.
Describe a situation where you had to change course, maybe ask for help, or make a decision based on what you knew at the time.
It's about being honest about the challenges and showing how you overcame them.
Right.
And RoleCatcher's AI could be useful here, I'm assuming. Understanding the kinds of problems common in the company's industry and those best practices for tackling them.
Oh, absolutely. RoleCatcher can analyze all sorts of data, industry case studies, technical docs, legal precedents, you name it.
Okay.
It helps you understand the common challenges and what works to solve them so you can tailor your answers and show you're familiar with the landscape.
That's incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to teamwork and collaboration.
Contract engineers, they're rarely working alone, right? They're
Right.
part of big teams, working with engineers, project managers, lawyers, all sorts of stakeholders.
So being a team player is a must.
It is. And effective teamwork means clear communication, respect for everyone, and a willingness to share ideas and responsibility.
Now, what if the interviewer says, describe a time when you had to work effectively as part of a team to achieve a common goal?
Uh.
How should our listener answer that?
Pick an example that really highlights those collaboration skills. Showing how they contributed to the team's success.
Okay.
Maybe they worked on a project plan, negotiated a contract, solved a technical issue, or dealt with a crisis, all as part of a team.
So it's about showing that you can play well with others.
Exactly.
And what about those follow-up questions where they ask about a difficult team member or a conflict within the team?
That's a chance to show off those conflict resolution skills again,
Okay.
and how you navigate those interpersonal dynamics.
Yeah.
Describe a situation where you had to, mediate a dispute, find a compromise, or give constructive feedback to a teammate.
So you're demonstrating that you can handle those tricky personality situations.
Right.
And I'm sure RoleCatcher's AI could help here too. understanding the company's team structure and their culture, right?
Oh, absolutely. It can analyze their org chart, employee reviews, social media, all sorts of things
Okay.
to get a sense of their team dynamics, leadership styles, how they collaborate. So you
Uh-huh.
can tailor your answers and show you understand their specific teamwork environment.
That level of insight is really valuable. Okay, let's talk about another crucial skill for contract engineers: attention to detail.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Contracts are full of detail.
They are.
And even a small mistake can have huge consequences. Contract engineers, they need to be meticulous, thorough, making sure every I is dotted and every it is crossed.
So precision is key.
It is. Attention to detail prevents errors, minimizes risks, keeps everything compliant.
Now, what if the interviewer asks, describe a time when your attention to detail saved a project from a costly mistake? How should our listener respond to that?
They should give an example that shows how their careful approach helped catch an error that others missed.
Okay.
Maybe they spotted a problem in a contract clause, a flaw in a technical spec, or a mistake in a budget spreadsheet.
So you're demonstrating that you're thorough and that you can catch those critical details.
Exactly.
What about follow-up questions? Like, what if they ask about a time when you made a mistake because you weren't paying enough attention to detail?
That's a chance to show honesty, that you're willing to take responsibility and learn from those mistakes. Describe a situation where you missed something important and what you did to fix it, mitigate the damage, and prevent it from happening again.
So it's about showing that you're not afraid to admit your mistakes and that you're always striving to improve.
Exactly.
And RoleCatcher's AI could probably help here too, right?
Yeah.
Understanding those common errors in the company's industry and best practices for avoiding them.
Absolutely. It can analyze industry reports, case studies, technical docs to identify those common pitfalls and suggest strategies to improve accuracy and precision.
So you're armed with knowledge about the specific challenges they face.
Yeah, which makes your answers stronger.
Okay, let's talk about another vital skill for contract engineers: adaptability and flexibility.
The world of contracts. It's always changing, right?
Right.
New regulations, new tech, new ways of doing business. Contract engineers need to adapt, be comfortable with the unknown, open to new ideas, and willing to change course.
So it's about being a quick learner and a problem solver, not just someone who sticks to the rule book no matter what.
Exactly. Adaptability and flexibility are essential for navigating those complex situations, finding creative solutions, and thriving in a fast-paced environment.
Now, if the interviewer asks, describe a time when you had to adapt to a major change on a project, how should our listener approach that?
I'd say pick an example that highlights your ability to adjust to new information, take on new challenges, and come up with those creative solutions.
So,
Maybe they had to renegotiate a contract because of new regulations, implement some new tech, or adjust the project timeline when something unexpected happened.
so you're showing that you can roll with the punches and still deliver.
Exactly.
Now, what about those follow-up questions where they ask about a time you struggled to adapt to a change or maybe even resisted a change that was necessary?
That's a chance to show your self-awareness,
Good one.
your willingness to learn from those mistakes and grow. Describe a situation where you initially pushed back on a change but eventually came to embrace it.
Talk about the benefits you gained, the lessons you learned about being flexible.
It's about showing that you can recognize when you're wrong and adjust your approach.
Exactly.
And RoleCatcher's AI can probably shed some light here too, right?
Right.
Understanding the pace of change in the company's industry and those specific challenges and opportunities that come with it.
Oh, absolutely. It can analyze industry trends, tech advancements, regulatory changes, all
Oh,
that
yeah?
to see what's shaping the company's world,
Right.
So you can tailor your answers and show you understand the need for adaptability in their specific field.
That's fantastic. All right, let's talk negotiation skills.
Oh, that's a core skill for contract engineers.
Yeah, I can imagine. They're negotiating all the time, right?
All the time with vendors, suppliers, clients, internal stakeholders.
So it's about finding those win-win solutions.
It is. Good negotiation means understanding everyone's needs and interests, finding common ground, and creating solutions that work for everyone. Okay, so what if the interviewer asks, describe your approach to negotiating a contract? How should our listener answer that one?
I'd say outline that process, highlight those key principles and strategies.
Okay.
Talk about preparation, research, communication, listening skills, finding that common ground.
Right.
And share examples of successful negotiations where you got those good outcomes for your company.
So it's about showing that you have a system, a method, to your negotiating madness.
Right.
Now, what about those follow-up questions where they ask about a tough negotiation or a time you had to walk away from a deal?
That's your chance to show resilience, that you can stand your ground when you need to, and that you're committed to protecting the company's interests.
Yeah.
Describe a time you faced a tough opponent, a tricky issue, or a tight deadline, and how you handled it.
Right.
What strategies did you use? What compromises were you willing to make? What lessons did you learn?
It's about showing that you can navigate those tough situations and make the best of it. And I'm sure RoleCatcher's AI can provide some valuable insights here as well, right? Understanding the company's negotiation style and the tactics that work best in their industry.
Oh, absolutely. It can analyze industry best practices, look at case studies, company profiles, all that,
Okay.
to see how that company typically approaches negotiations, what their priorities are, how willing they are to compromise, so you can adjust your approach and meet their expectations.
That kind of tailored preparation can make all the difference. All right, let's shift gears and talk about leadership skills.
As contract engineers gain experience, they often step into those leadership roles,
Right.
supervising teams, mentoring junior colleagues, managing those complex projects.
So it becomes about managing people as well as contracts.
Exactly. And good leadership is about setting a clear vision, empowering others, encouraging collaboration, giving good feedback, recognizing those achievements.
So if the interviewer asks, describe a time when you demonstrated leadership on a project, how should our listener respond?
Pick an example that shows their ability to motivate and guide others, delegate effectively, and build consensus.
Right.
Maybe they led a team to create a new contract template, implemented a new process, resolved a tricky dispute, or hit a challenging target.
It's about showing that you can inspire others and get things done.
Exactly.
Now, what about follow-up questions about times they faced a leadership challenge or made a mistake as a leader?
That's an opportunity to show humility, that you can learn from your mistakes and grow.
Okay.
Describe a situation where you struggled to motivate your team, made a decision that backfired, or didn't delegate effectively. Then explain what you learned from it, how you improved your leadership, and what positive changes you made.
So it's about showing that you're not perfect, but you're always striving to be better.
Right.
And RoleCatcher's AI can help here too, right?
Yeah.
Understanding the company's leadership style and the qualities they value in their leaders.
Absolutely. It can analyze company reviews, executive profiles, leadership programs, all that, to get a sense of their leadership culture, their preferred styles, the traits they're looking for, so you can tailor your answers and show you're on the same page as them.
That's really smart.
Hmm.
Okay, let's talk about professional development and continuous learning.
The contract management field, it's always evolving.
It is.
Contract engineers need to stay ahead of the game.
Right.
Taking courses, going to conferences, doing all those professional development activities.
So it's about being a lifelong learner, always looking for ways to grow.
Exactly. Continuous learning helps you stay current with best practices, adapt to those new regulations and technologies, and expand your skill set.
Now, if the interviewer asks, how do you stay current on developments in contract management? How should our listener respond?
They should emphasize their commitment to professional development
Okay.
and give specific examples of what they're doing to learn.
Right.
Talk about conferences they've attended, courses they've taken, books they've read, professional organizations they're part of.
So paint a picture of your commitment to learning. Now, what about follow-up questions? Like if they ask about a specific regulation or technology in their industry.
That's your chance to shine,
Yeah.
Show off that knowledge and expertise. Discuss your understanding of it, how it impacts contract management, and what you're doing to stay informed about changes in that area.
So you're proving that you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk.
Right.
And RoleCatcher's AI can help here too, right?
Yeah.
Identifying relevant professional development opportunities and resources.
Oh, for sure. It can analyze those industry trends, new tech, regulatory changes,
Done.
and then suggest courses, certifications, conferences, all sorts of resources that would be helpful for that company and for your career goals.
That's fantastic. It's like having a personalized learning advisor.
Okay.
Let's talk industry knowledge and expertise.
Contract engineers often specialize in certain industries,
Right.
like construction, tech, energy, government. They need to have a deep understanding of the unique challenges, the regulations, the best practices in their field.
So it's about being a specialist, not just someone who knows a little bit about everything.
Exactly. Industry knowledge, it helps you really grasp those nuances of contracts, anticipate those risks, and, come up with effective solutions.
Okay, let's say the interviewer asks, what's your experience in the specific industry? How should our listener tackle that?
They should showcase their experience and knowledge.
Right.
Share examples of projects, challenges they faced, lessons learned, talk about regulations, best practices, those emerging trends.
So paint a picture of your expertise in that specific area.
Exactly.
What about those follow-up questions, like when they ask about a specific company or project in the industry?
That's where you show you've done your homework,
Okay.
Talk about their business model, key projects, their competition. It shows genuine interest in the company and the industry.
And I'm betting RoleCatcher's AI can be helpful here too, right?
Yeah.
Understanding the company's specific industry, the key players, all of that.
Oh, absolutely. It can analyze company profiles, industry reports, market trends, and give you insights into the company's landscape, their challenges, their opportunities, and it can highlight what specific industry knowledge would be most valuable to them.
That's a game changer. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about technology skills.
The world of contracts is going digital,
It is.
Contract engineers need to be comfortable with all sorts of software and tech.
Right.
Contract management systems, e-signatures, data analytics, things that streamline those contract processes.
So it's about using tech to your advantage.
Exactly. Technology skills, they're essential for automating those tasks, improving accuracy, reducing risks, and, collaborating effectively.
Now, what if they ask about your experience with contract management software specifically? What then?
Highlight your proficiency in those platforms,
Okay.
SAP, Ariba, Coupa, Oracle Contracts Cloud. Describe your experience using those platforms to create, track, manage those contracts.
Right.
Analyze them.
So name drop those specific platforms.
Right, and show you know how to use them.
What about those follow-up questions, like when they ask about a particular feature or function within a specific platform?
That's a perfect time to show off that technical know-how.
Okay.
Describe your experience, the benefits you've seen, any challenges you've faced. Prove you can use those tools effectively.
And RoleCatcher's AI can help here too,
Right.
identifying the specific platforms and tech used in their industry.
Absolutely. It analyzes industry reports, job postings, company profiles, all that. It can pinpoint the most in-demand tools and technologies in that company's field.
So you can tailor your answers and show you're ready to hit the ground running.
Exactly.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. Our listeners should feel pretty prepared to handle those tough interview questions and build a successful career as a contract engineer.
Yeah, I think they are. Remember, a great contract engineer is more than just a legal expert. They're strategic thinkers, problem solvers, communicators, and leaders.
And they're constantly learning, adapting to this ever-changing field.
Exactly. So to our listener out there prepping for that interview, show your passion for this work, your willingness to learn, your drive to excel.
And don't forget the power of RoleCatcher. Their AI can help you craft those killer answers, prepare for industry-specific questions, and plan your career path.
Go build something amazing. We're cheering you on.
That's a wrap for today's deep dive into contract engineer interviews. We'll catch you next time for another insightful exploration.